G'day, this is Ben, and today I'm looking at a few different ways to, well, I guess connect two wires to each other. We've got a couple of traditional style ones as well as a couple of newer versions, so I thought I'd give you a quick overview and a couple of how-tos to show you how it's all done. So at the start, we've obviously got terminal strips. These are a pretty common thing. We've seen them use them for years and years and years. Each of these has got a screw on one side, a screw on the other side. If you look in closely, that screw goes into the channel underneath, and there's another screw for the other side. Essentially all that you do is put a bit of wire in one side, screw it down, put another bit of wire on the other side, screw that down, and now those two are electrically connected to each other. And the size of terminal strip that you use is more or less dependent on the type of cabling that you want to use. So bigger, heavier duty ones, and then through to a big jumbo one like this boy. So with these, they've got the little round piece in between. You can cut those down, cut them out, or in some cases you can actually just twist and break these connections. So you see them a lot in lighting circuits for electrical work. You see them in sort of hobby shops and garage stuff, toy trains, little LED lighting strips. There's a whole heap of different applications for a basic terminal strip like that one. However, the big issues with these ones are obviously cable size is fairly limited, and you've got to pick and choose and have a variety of these on hand depending on the type of wiring that you're using. You can also only connect, well, two wires to each other unless you can jam more than one set of wires into these into the holes underneath. And that tiny little screw that's in there, depending on the type of cable that you're actually using, that may make a really good contact with it, or it might make a pretty bad contact with it. But a terminal strip's cheap and easy, so they're good to go. If you want to take that up to a more modern version of it, you've got something like these Wego connectors. WAGO, I have no idea how you're actually supposed to say it. The two different varieties I've got on show here are the 222s and the 221s. They've got a few differences for it. The 222 is sort of the classic Wego connector, so this is a three-way version for it. And you can see it's just a little grey piece like that. You look right up into the guts of this, and the lighting may not work very well, but you've got a common connection between all three of these sockets and on the side. Now if I pull the little lever arm up, this is where the magic happens. So you can see inside now that's released the actual channel, and all I do is clip that down, and now that's connected in place. So I use that with a bit of wire that I've prepared earlier. One little note for you, on the back or on the side of the Wego connectors you can see there's a little tiny piece of, this is going to be hard to focus, there we go. So it shows you the 3 steps of how to put this thing together, obviously shows you the full rating on this one as well, and there you can see how long your cable is actually supposed to be. So I've stripped it to that length, I pull my little lever arm up, I insert the cable, clip it down, and that's it. Nice and solid little connection. It's not coming away now. I can put another wire in there, another wire in there, and they're all in common between the three. One little feature you might not have noticed is there's a hole on the top. No, it's not for drainage, obviously. What that actually does is connects to the rail between all three of these. So if you want to test this with a multimeter when it's live on a circuit, for example, all you got to do is put your multimeter probe in there. You don't have to try and jam it down here in with one of the cables that's already in or anything else. Very clever little design. So great little product, those ones. Now, when they, one of the huge benefits with something like this one is that you can run a range of different connectors into the same holes. This clamp will work, I think on these ones, the rating on this is anywhere from 14 gauge to 28 gauge. Oops, very hard to focus. Anywhere from 14 gauge to 28 gauge, so that's about a 2.5 square millimeter cable all the way down to about a 0.08 square millimeter cable. And in theory you could have different size cables connected together too. So probably wouldn't want to do that if your voltage and current rating was critical, but on a small hobby circuit or something like it where you've got a bit of wire running one place, a bit of wire running another place, then this might work out really well. There are 2, 3 and 5-way versions of the 222s, and you can see here they also do DIN rail mounting strips for them. So I've got a 5-way in here and I've got a 3-way in here. If you look at the top, see that slot that's there? Right in there you can see that's my test hole for the 5 strip, so you can still do the testing even when these things are live on a DIN rail. So really useful things. We tend to use them a lot for things like intercom systems, where you've got audio and video wires that all have to come back in common. So, here's the main one from the bus controller, and then this is out to apartment 1, apartment 2, apartment 3, apartment 4, and these might be a ground connection or something similar for it. Nice and neat, and there are different coloured versions of those too. They also tell me that there will be soon a way to do basically a jumper connection between them, but that's specifically for these, which are the 221s. That's a 5-way. Let's look at the little 2-way. It's here. So this is the 221 connectors. You can see it's got a bigger throat on it than the other ones do, and in fact these will handle anywhere from I think it's a 12 gauge down to a 24 gauge with this tiny little one. So 12 gauge would be about a 4mm square cable, and then all the way down to a 0.2 square millimeter cable. So again, pick and choose the one that suits your requirements depending on what you're trying to do. So obviously the cable we've already got. There is a marking on the side here that says 11mm. The previous one was 10, so mine is slightly short, but hey, it's close enough for the video that we're doing. There's a throat on the inside that you can kind of see there that helps guide the wires into it, and you can use solid stranded or fine stranded wires with these sort of connections. Again, nice solid connection, that's not going anywhere. You've obviously got a clear body here, so you can see the connection has actually been made and that everything's working properly. And the 221s actually have a test hole on the back side of it and a test hole on the underneath the lever arm on the front side of it. So you've got the option of chucking a multimeter in wherever you need to. Again, there are DIN rail mounting adapters for these ones, but I didn't have any in stock, so I couldn't show you that today. I've got the 3s and the 5s there for you too, and it's the same sort of idea. You've got 5-way connection, you've got a test point in the middle, 5 common rails all the way through, and another test point on the back of it. So quite a convenient, quite a useful thing. With a heavier duty cable, so this is a 12 gauge speaker wire, for example. Take something like the Wego connector, pop that out, push in, bang, done. Nice solid connection, easily made, and grabs it really nicely and strongly. Okay, so last couple that I've got to show you are a more traditional single terminal. So you've got a single screw, you've got a hood cover on it, closed at this end, and the screw Phillips or flat up through the top here. Now this is designed for up to 2 6 square millimeter cables. So you can put 2 of these wires, so something like these, into this throat at the same time and connect them together. Simple enough, and then screw down from the top to make that connection happen. Obviously, making sure you've got the cables the right length and so on. The same restrictions that we talked about before, terminal strips apply here. You've got 1 screw in the middle of this to hold all of this stuff in place. So depending on how your wires are connected together, or if they're not at all, you may get a really good connection or a pretty poxy connection. So directions are on the outside for the maximum size, but obviously if you tried to put a really tiny little cable in, there's a fair chance that would slip out and move. But again, these are used a lot for electrical work. We're using solid core cabling, or ones with bigger, so instead of fine stranded cores, you've got heavier duty cores like these sort of ones. Okay, my last little one on the table is these little ones. They're called butt connectors or Scotchloks, although Scotchlok is actually a 3M proprietary name. This is a 2-throat one, and what's inside here is gel, and if I can really zoom in close, you can see there's a little silver piece there. And this is what's called an IDC connector, an insulation displacement connector on the inside. In other words, you don't have to strip your cable when you put this in. So take something like my security cable here, put the wires in, so not stripping them, just pushing them in. The gel that's in there obviously makes this waterproof as well. My cables go through to the end, and that's it. All I then do is I take the right tool, which this is not, I'll remind you, this is not the right tool, this is what I had on hand, and crimp the thing closed. You can see that the gel has come out, and probably out the end. It's on my fingers now as well, but that is now a solid waterproof connection. And if we look in from this side very closely, you can see that those little silver pieces inside have pierced the cable itself, so I've now got a cable to cable connection through the inside of this plug. So used typically for things like telecommunications and security, but again, on something like a model train set or something with small gauge wiring, I think these are a maximum size of, what is it, about, I'm trying to remember now, probably 19 gauge to 26 gauge, so pretty fine stuff. They'll work perfectly. So, great little product for making a simple and basic connection. So, I've shown you a few different types of connection here, a few different types of ways of making cables connect together. Hopefully you'll find one in that suits your needs. Thank you very much. See you later.